Hey there folks, Aldershot here, and today we're going to take a look at Mushihimesama. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It's developed by Cave Interactive and it's on sale on Steam at the regular price around $20 USD. Now this isn't technically a new game. It was originally released back in 2004, I believe, as an arcade shoot 'em up game. It is a shoot 'em up, by the way, or aka shmup. Alright. It was also ported to other consoles like the PS2 in the past, but this is new to Steam, right? This is a new port to Steam, so we're going to take a look at it and see what it's all about, of course. Now the game has actually a fairly robust options and extra features list for the player to kind of explore, and we'll definitely take a look at them at the end of the video or during the video, but for the time being I just want to kind of jump into the core gameplay, right? So let's do that. We're just going to jump into normal. We'll explain the other modes down the road. Alright, I'm going to do one thing first though. I got one of the options. I got all these screens turned on, but what we're going to do is turn these off. That's not to distract the viewers out there. Alright, back. Alright, here we go. Let's just jump into a game. One player start. There is local multiplayer, just so you know. You have two controllers or a controller and a keyboard or something like that. You can play with a friend if you're, if that friend is with you. Just no online, is only local, right? So keep that in mind. When you first jump into the game, under normal anyways, there are multiple difficulties to select from: original, manic, or ultra. Original is probably what I would recommend playing if you're getting this game for the first time. I personally prefer Manic. I find it's a nice balance between the difficulties, and Ultra is just insane. I do really poorly on it. We might take a look at it later on down the video, but let's just jump into Manic. Alright, now before you start the game, there's actually different powers to select from. You have M power, the W power, and the S power. You can clearly see what they do on the left hand side, as you can see the character shooting different kinds of projectiles. So take your pick essentially. I like the W power, so we'll go with that for now. Alright, so here we are. We are in Mushihimesama. Let's see. So this game is kind of a classic shmup, if you will. Like I said, it was actually originally released back in 2004. And this is one of Cave Interactive's more famous games. They actually made a lot of shmups. They're quite well known for making good shmup games, right? In fact, Cave Interactive is commonly credited as one of the founding fathers of the bullet hell genre in shmups. So that's seen quite a bit, and I'm definitely a big fan of this genre, so I definitely had a bit of interest to play this game. Now when I first got the game, let's just be fair here, I suffered a lot of technical problems trying to start it. It just crashed on start, which really sucked. But luckily they patched that out. Everything seems to be working fine now. Although when I alt-tab sometimes, rarely given, sometimes it does crash if I alt-tab, right? So I try my best not to do that. Some other technical problems that I do want people to be aware of is that because this is a port, oh god, we just died. Because this is a port, there's going to be some resolution limitations. As you can see, like the screen is in a portrait perspective, which isn't ideal when your monitor is landscape, but it is what it is. And there's no way to increase the resolution size either. And this is definitely a stretched resolution. This isn't true 1080, even accounting for the background image and all that kind of stuff, right? So do be aware of that. But other than, some of the technical flaws I've mentioned already, I definitely want to talk about some of the good stuff of the game, because there's definitely a lot of good stuff to talk about in Mushihimesama. There we go. I'm not Japanese, it's hard for me to say these kind of crazy names. But anyways, yeah, so I'm going to talk about the graphics, I guess. It looks good. I think for a game that came out in 2004, the game stands the test of time quite well, in my opinion. I think oh god, we just died again. I think, you know, the graphics, the sprites, the design of the characters, and all the flashiness that's on the screen, it's really, really nice, you know, although sometimes when there's a whole bunch of stuff on the screen, it does slow down, which is a little bit unfortunate and annoying. It's not necessarily frame drops, but like the game actually just slows down sometimes, right, when things get crazy. But anyways, I'm supposed to be talking about the good things right now, not the negatives. So yeah, the graphics look good. I like it. It's very, very Japanese, as you can tell. Cave Interactive is definitely a Japanese developer, and you make no apologies for that, obviously. And yeah, it has a very interesting kind of bug theme to it, as you can see. In fact, I think Mushihimesama, when you translate it from Japanese to English, it roughly translates to like Bug Princess or something like that, so it's very much part of the story as well, which makes sense. Hopefully I get the volume loud enough, but the music is quite nice as well. It's very classic sounding, very old school, but very well designed and suiting to the atmosphere and, you know, the Japanese-ness of the game. I'll be quiet for a second. Hopefully I got the volume loud enough so you can hear some of the beeps and boops and the soundtrack. So there you go, some of the soundtrack. Like I said, hopefully I got the volume turned up loud enough. But yeah, it's... oh god, we just died again. I'm going to be pretty horrible while commentating and playing this game, as you can tell. It's a pretty bullet hellish game. There's a lot of stuff flying in my face, right? But yeah, the soundtrack's nice. The visuals are nice. The presentation is generally pretty nice, right? So anyways, let's kind of talk about the gameplay a little bit. I think that would make sense, right? So you can kind of hold down the fire button, and you can collect upgrades as you would expect from these shmup games, you know. You can collect upgrades to your main weapon, you can collect bombs, and you can collect little bug friends that help shoot laser beams at you, right? You can also hold the alternate fire key, and that'll focus... oh god, I just died. That'll focus your fire into more of a precise point. Great for doing damage, right? But it will slow your character down, as you can see. So use that sparingly and strategically, of course. Then you have your bombs. Not only does it do a lot of damage, but also clears the screen of any bullets, which is incredibly useful and absolutely essential in certain parts of the game, right? So use that strategically. I actually kind of recommend using it defensively over using it offensively, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But that's basically, you know, the game. Then you can also get like, you can change skill points, and you get more points that way and all that stuff. That's generally how the game mechanics work. I mean, it's a shmup, right? So it's not overly complex as far as mechanics are concerned. At least until you get to the nitty-gritty of score attacking, right? Then there's going to be a lot more stuff for you to kind of nuance your way into. But overall, it's a pretty simple concept. It doesn't really do too much to, I guess, expand the shmup genre. Like, there's no real extra little gimmicks like in Ikagura, one of my favorite shmups. You have a multiple color system where you have to switch modes to bypass certain bullets and all that kind of stuff, right? This game doesn't have any of that. It's just a straight up shmup, but it's a very, very well designed shmup, right? Its core mechanics are very strong. The bullet hell patterns are actually quite beautiful in some cases and challenging, right? It's very, very satisfying, especially when you're doing well and you're getting those score chains and all that stuff, right? It's an extremely satisfying feeling shmup. It's very, very fun to play, obviously. I really like it. But like I said before, it doesn't really do anything too different from other shmups. It just does what it does very, very well, right? Now, something that's really interesting about how the game has designed the character models and the bullets and all that kind of stuff, it's something very, very admirable, and it is something that I probably appreciate the most from this game. Let's talk about the bullets first and foremost. They're big, they're huge, you know, they're easily decipherable from the background. There's no other purple elements except for the bullets, which makes sense. And they're designed such a way where they're visually very, very clear, right? There's no mistaking where the bullets are coming from, where they're going to hit. And that is you know, obviously very important elements when designing any kind of shmup games. And it's one element of shmups that I find a lot of developers kind of miss. Like, I find some shmups, the bullets are really hard to tell from the background, and they're hard to read, and that really is kind of a flaw, right? But this game doesn't suffer that at all. I find the bullets are very easily read, and yeah, it's good. It's definitely a good thing. Now, something else that's really interesting, you might have noticed from watching this video so far, is that it seems like I'm getting hit by the bullets, but what's actually happening is my character model is fairly big on the screen, and I think that was for the sake of visual clarity, right? But the developer purposely designed it so the hitbox of your character is actually very, very, very small. It's about the size of your character's head, right? So it's extremely small, giving you lots of room to kind of squeeze in between all this bullet hell that's going on. And to me, I think that was really smart of them to design the character in such a fashion, because, well, anyone who plays a lot of shmups know that you're never really looking at your character model, right? So designing the hitbox exactly the same size as your character model is futile and pointless, because the player's not looking at it anyways. When you're playing games like shmups, it's all about the peripheral vision. You're looking at where the dangers are coming from and where it might hit. It's almost like using a sixth sense almost in order to do well. And because of that, having a large character model so your eye can track it in its peripheral vision rather than directly looking at it is really, really smart. But keeping the hitbox small, so that way you can kind of feel your way around the bullets rather than actually having to look at your character model to avoid it, is also incredibly smart, right? And that's one of my favorite aspects of this game, is how Cave Interactive designed the bullets and the character model versus the character's hitbox. I know some people might argue that it has some visual confusion if the character model isn't exactly the same size as the hitbox. That's only really the case for certain genres, and in shmups that's not really the case, right? I mean, I understand where the hitbox is. Like I said, it's around the size of the head. It's actually very, very small, allowing the player to kind of bob and weave in between the bullets, right? And yeah, I like this part of the game. It was very smart, and I think other shmup games can learn from this design as well. It definitely helped me get accustomed to how the game works, right? But other than that, it's definitely a very, very enjoyable shmup. Like I said, it doesn't really do too much different from other shmups. It just does what it's doing extremely well. I can see why this is such a classic game for Cave Interactive. Now the game is $20. It is $20. That is a little expensive, considering that the resolution isn't even technically 1080p. There are some design or technical flaws, such as crashing on Alt-Tab. Sometimes, I want to emphasize on that. And the fact that the game does slow down when there's a lot of stuff hitting the screen. And I don't know if they actually remastered any part of the game or not. Oh my god, look at this. This is insane. I don't know if they actually remastered any part of the game, because I haven't actually played the original. But, you know, even if they didn't, it does look pretty good. But regardless of that, if they haven't remastered any specific part of the game as far as graphics is concerned, then again, that could be a counter argument to if it's worth $20 or not. Now, for a shmup fan, I think this is an easy recommendation, even at $20. Just because of how good the game feels and how enjoyable it is and how satisfying and challenging the game is, right? But for more casual players, like, the game's fairly repetitive. You can actually finish the main campaign in about 20 minutes, so you're looking at the very core contents of the game. It is fairly limited. Now, there are multiple ways to play the game. We'll explore more of that in a little bit when we take a look at some of the extra features and modes, right? But even with that said, those extra features and modes, they're just recycled assets, recycled versions of what we're playing right now with some new mechanics and some new rules, right? So for a casual gamer, that's really going to be up to you. All I can tell you is that this is a very well-designed shmup game, that it is very enjoyable and very satisfying. However, you know, the content is somewhat limited, and there are some technical limitations as well, being an old port, right? So there you go. Now, something else about this game being a port, like I mentioned, this is originally an arcade game, right? So, as an arcade game, the punishment for failing, for dying, is losing your money. It's more quarters, right? Well, just one second, guys. My throat's getting a little dry here. Still suffering from my illness, I guess, and my flu. But anyways, enough about that. As I was saying, now because this is a port, this is a PC game now, you don't have to put in quarters when you die, obviously. You just hit continue, and there's infinite continues, and move on in your merry way. In fact, when you die, you actually reset your bombs as well. You get all your bombs back. So it's actually arguable that dying is beneficial, because you get one of the most powerful weapons in the game, defensively and offensively, the bombs, right? Now, you do lose your skill chain, and that means you lose your points, so that's going to be the main punishment. And to be fair, as most shmup fans would know, the real core of any good shmup isn't finishing the game or moving onwards, but rather it is the score itself. It is getting on top of that leaderboard and doing the best you absolutely can. So losing your score actually is a huge punishment in the context of the genre, but to a more casual player, dying can actually be exploitable. As I mentioned before, you can reset your bombs that way, right, and move forward. So that can be perceived as kind of an issue. It really depends on how you play the game and the context in which you are playing the game, right? As in, like, what kind of player are you? Are you just playing the game for funsies? Are you just a general gamer? Or are you here as a score attacker? Are you here as a shmup fan? So it really depends on how you look at it. I think under the context of the genre and the game, I think the punishment is relatively okay. I would like to see an option to limit the continues, or a game mode where it limits your lives and your continues and all that stuff, forcing you to maybe start over, making it more of a, I guess, a roguelike-ish, you know, in that sense. But it doesn't really have that, so it's infinite continues, 2 or 3 lives depending on the game mode you're playing, and even your upgrades can be maintained after you continue, right? And again, all this is because it's just an arcade port. It's not designed solely for PC or consoles or whatever, right? So it's going to have that mechanical drawback in that sense. But again, like I mentioned, do know it does reset your points to a degree. So that is really the main punishment. In the context of a shmup game, that is actually a huge punishment, right? It's all about points. It's all about your score. It's all about doing the best you can and all that stuff. But it is something worth noting, something worth considering if you're interested in the game. But anyways, yeah, that's basically kind of my thoughts on Mushihimesama. Pretty interesting little game. Let's take... We're fighting a boss. Let's just get out of this for a second. I want to show you guys some of the extra modes that's available in the game before we end this video, of course. Now you have Novice, which essentially plays just like normal, except it gives you more lives and more bombs, and I believe the boss's HP is less, and there's less bullets on the screen, right? Although, you know, even in Novice, excuse me, even in Novice, there's still, let's see here, there's still Original, Manic, and Ultra mode. But, let's get out of this here. I don't need to show you this. Whoops. But, essentially, there are lesser versions of normal mode. So even on Manic or on, you know, the most difficult mode, there will be less bullets by comparison to normal mode. Yes. Alright, let's get out of this. I'll show you the other mode. Then we have normal, which we already explored. Then we have arrange, which is kind of interesting. You start off with basically your ship fully upgraded. You got all the upgrades, you got all the bug friends to do your bidding, and all that kind of stuff. However, I believe there are more bullets on the screen, and there's an additional end boss. So after you kill the last boss in normal mode, there is one more boss to fight, and he's really hard. He has a lot of HP, he's quite difficult, And yeah, pretty interesting. There's also no difficulty settings for arranged. It is a set game mode. Then you have version 1.5. Now this is only available if you get the DLC, which costs a little bit extra, right? I forget how much extra. I don't think it's a whole lot. It's like $2 to $5, something like that. So it might be a little bit. I don't know. But anyways, 1.5 is essentially like normal mode, except a few different key changes, such as the way you build your score chain is based more on how close you kill your enemies, right? Which is kind of interesting. And also in 1.5, let's see here. When you go into the game, let's say original, there is actually additional options here. It's not just like choose your weapon. You can actually choose your weapon, or you can choose the max power version of your weapon. However, it balances that option with more enemy bullets on the screen, right? So that's kind of interesting. Anyways, let's get out of this. No, I didn't want to drop the bomb. I wanted to go back to title. There we go. So that's 1.5, again, only available if you get the DLC. Then there's also score attack, compete for high scores with your friends, which is essentially the same thing, to be completely honest, but with an emphasis on your score more than anything else. Then there are leaderboards. You can even go into training, which is really cool, actually. You can select which level to play in, which boss to fight. You can also set a bunch of extra rules, right? And all that kind of stuff. Bomb counts, option counts, all this kind of different stuff, right? So it's a way to practice without worrying about the leaderboards or anything like that. This is interesting too. Replay data. You can actually record any completed games, right, that you've completed, obviously, and rewatch them. So it has a built-in recorder, which is great. A great way for the player to kind of, you know, explore how they did and how to improve. There you go. Words, English. Then we have options, which is actually fairly robust for the most part. Not graphically, okay? The graphics option is just horrible. There's nothing, essentially. It's full screen or window, which hopefully I didn't just kill my recording doing that. Let's just double check here. Okay, recording's still good. Alright, good. Then you can rotate for some reason. I never actually used that. Then your score detail. You can display that on or off. Then you have extra windows. I want to show you guys this, because this is actually pretty cool. Extra windows too. There we go. Back. And we'll just go into normal mode. Actually, you know what? We'll go into arrange mode. Back. Same system. I want to show you guys this extra window, because this is great for people who like to stream or people who like to do YouTube, like me, for example, right? So we're going to play this with the extra windows that we got set. And yeah, as you can see, there's extra windows, right? But these extra windows, they highlight very specific parts of the game. Like there's one window that highlights specifically your character and how it's avoiding bullets. There's one that's highlighting the enemies and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a great way for the viewers to see exactly what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, right? As the viewers can obviously pay attention to whatever element of the game that they really want to focus on, like how you're dodging bullets or how you're shooting the enemies. And these windows are a great way to highlight these elements of your gameplay. I actually really like this stuff, these little extra windows. The only reason I have it off most of the time is because I can find it distracting. But for streamers, or for those who are recording for an audience, this is absolutely fantastic, you know? It's a great way for the audience to get to know the way you play the game, right? So that's really cool. I like that a lot. Start, back. And before we end the video, what we're going to do is jump back into normal mode. And I want to show you guys, the most difficulty, because it's insane. It's absolutely insane. We'll summarize the game while we play under Ultra. I'm going to die a whole lot, so bear with me. We'll explore one of the different powers. We'll try S power while we're doing this, too. With the extra windows, apparently. Alright, good enough. So, Mushihimesama. What do I think of it overall? I like it. I really, really do like it. I feel like I've kind of missed out by not playing it until now, actually. As it's quickly becoming one of my favorite shmup games. And I do love my shmups, let me tell you. Like I said earlier, it doesn't really do anything new for the genre. But what it... Oh, God, look at this. Look at this. Right? This is just stage 1. In the very first part of stage 1 at that. It's hard, guys. This is really, really hard. But anyways, overall, this is a very satisfying shmup game. It doesn't do anything unique or different, but what it does do, it does very, very well. It's just a wonderfully designed game, right? Like, it nails everything it needs to nail as a shmup. It feels great, it controls well, and really does a great job at visual clarity. You know, it's very easily read by the player on what you should be avoiding and where you should be avoiding, and the dangers that come ahead, right? It does such a great job at visual clarity. It's absolutely one of the best examples of visual clarity in a shmup game, in my opinion. That's one of my favorite elements of the game. And yeah, it's just extremely satisfying, right? It's just very, very enjoyable shmup game, especially if you're into this genre. Is it worth $20? Excuse me. As I mentioned before, as a casual gamer, maybe, maybe not. You know, it really depends on the type of gamer you are. As you are playing through a lot of the same content, given there's a lot of different ways to play it, but it is a lot of the same content over and over again. It's really about exploring the different game modes, and more importantly, doing the best you can, and improving your skill, right? That's what shmup games are really all about. It's all about self-improvement. And this game does that very, very well. But again, as if you're more of a casual gamer who's newer to the genre, the content is somewhat limited, right? So do be aware of that. $20 is kind of asking a lot. But for shmup fans, I think this is a very, very easy recommendation. If you're into or if you're looking to get into a shmup game, I do actually recommend Mushihimesama. Given that $20 might seem a little expensive, but this is definitely one of the best designed shmup games I've ever played. So in that context, I think I can still safely recommend it at $20, right? Yeah, so there you go. That's essentially my overall feelings of Mushihimesama. Definitely very enjoyable. Not perfect. There's some technical limitations, you know, with its resolution limitations and the slowdown when there's a whole bunch of stuff on the screen, and very rare but does occur crashes when alt tabbing. So these are, oh god, these are things to keep in mind. And also the very fact that there's infinite continues as well, which can be kind of perceived as exploitable and maybe a little bit too easy, but in the context of a shmup fan or a shmup genre, and the fact that it does reset your score to a degree, I think it's still balanced to that extent. But anyways, that's essentially it. That's Mushihimesama. Definitely a very interesting shmup, right? Anyways, folks, I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully you folks enjoyed this. Hopefully you found this informative. And if you did, you know, show me some love. Like, share, favorite, and comments if you haven't already. Subscribe. I'll bring you lots more video games just like this. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ultra shout out. God, this is fucking hard.